welcome to today's show of Play With It with Cass Allen. We've been talking about the dating pool since this show premiered a couple of weeks ago, and we're still in that pool. And today we're talking about dating one or more people. Obviously, some people want to be one-on-one with people. They don't want to get too involved with a lot of people. They just want to find out how it's going with one. And if it doesn't work out, they move to the other, and they call that dating. The type of people that want to date a host of people at the same time, and they also may be looking to settle down or not. We're going to talk about that, all of that up in here, as we always do. Again, I'm no expert in any of these areas. I'm an expert in experience. I play with y'all and I tell y'all that I don't have any professional knowledge of any type, but I do. I studied some psychology in undergrad, like many of us, and sociology. And then in my later years, as I worked on my doctorate, which I do not have, I have to say that because when I just say worked on my doctorate, people assume I have it. As I was working on my doctorate, I concentrated in organizational leadership and development, which led me to a host of courses in psychology, sociology, and neuroscience. So, I bullshit, but I'm still no expert. I'm real about that too. But some people are like, nah, you just seem a little unusually in tune. So, I don't want y'all thinking I'm psychic and, I got some kind of natural gift because I don't. Like I said, I've dated a lot in my years and I also have experience, with people. So that's where we coming from. Like I said, venting, having some fun, as y'all know, in an adult space where we can use adult language to discuss adult content. So I'm not gonna waste your time, Let's get right to it. Dating means different things to different people. I've used the words in ways where people have said that's not a date. I'll tell them, I'm going out with a friend. I'm going on a date. They're like, oh, you trying to transfer that from friendship? I'm like, no, I'm going to play with my friend. Just as we do as kids. I'm going out to have some fun. I'm going on a date. And they're like, oh, nobody says that. Why you got to use the word date? I'm like, because that's what the fuck it is. I have an appointment. I have a date with my friend. We get so hung up on using words one way and then we want to control how people use them instead of remembering that a lot of words have more than one meaning in the dictionary. You'll often find a word with seven, eight damn definitions, depending on the content, noun, verb, preposition, adjective, adverb, etc., and so forth. The same damn word being used in all those contexts. So, for me, a date is just um, an appointment with someone that will do whatever we're going to do. But for the purposes of the show, obviously, it means a little more than that, dating people, whatever your reasons. There are a number of reasons people date, as we mentioned. You may date just because you are looking for that one. You may be dating because you're looking to have multiple people to date. You may already have a person already. You may be dating to marry. You may be dating for fun. You may be dating forever, whatever the case. There's a date taking place. Um, and like I said, today we're discussing dating one or more. The reasons that people decide, I'm going to just date one person or multiple person, and we're going to explore a few of these categories that I just mentioned. Some of the reasons that this happens. Um, Again, y'all hear from me a lot. I don't give a fuck what you do as long as you're adults, as long as you're consenting, as long as you're not hurting anybody or, creating a set of monster children because you don't belong together, whatever the reasons, from familia or otherwise, genetics. Otherwise, do what the hell you want to do. I really don't care. I think we should be able to express ourselves freely and date who we want, whether it's same sex, intersex, both sexes, whatever you want, as long as you're being true to yourself. Isn't that what it is about? I'm not going to go off on that because that's another show, dating and being true to yourself. But we're talking about dating one or more, and if you are inclined to do such, then just take some things into consideration as you're going down that path. Not only as it relates to yourself, but how you look at the people that you're dating and what their intention is as well, as it relates to dating one or more. So let's get started. Um, some people, like I said, take dating to have different definitions. So I think it's important for people to define that in the beginning. Like, what do you define as dating? You know, one person will think it's just me and you, feeling each other out, while the other person has 11 more people. And then, as things come out later, someone's accused of, not having the right intention when they just really never had the conversation that was needed from the first place. So I suggest people have that conversation and decide, what does dating mean to you? Does that mean we're exclusive or are we open circuit? Is there a limit or a maximum rather? Yeah, to the amount of people we're dating. Are you having sex with the people you're dating? Become to question along the line if you move down the line with someone. So many things, But again, this is a half an hour, so as I always say, y'all know we're not covering a lot of that stuff. Mm. So again, to wrap that up, before you even begin to explore all the other stuff we're about to discuss, know what type of dating you're doing with someone. You can avoid some confusion, some heartaches and breaks sometimes. I thought it was just me and you. I never told you that. I know you have heard it, you've seen it, you've heard it from your friends. Some of us have said it ourselves, heard it from people we're dating, and Lord knows we've all seen it in the media. It's important to not just assume things. So many things people assume because they're so caught up in attraction, they don't think of any of the shit that is really important in the long run, as I mentioned. So y'all know Cass, I'm out here giving y'all things to think about as y'all navigate these tunnels in your life. We're going to talk about dating only one and what that means. Sometimes that doesn't even mean what you think it means. Someone may tell you they only want to get to know you, and you're like, wow, I'm feeling that same way, I'm feeling this. Oh yeah, you feeling that shit hard to the point where you got a hardy. Literally, whatever it is, your penis, your clitoris, doesn't matter. You're excited. You like doom 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 doom. You're doing that dance towards yeah, baby, and then you find out, this person only wants to be with you. You're like, oh yeah. But guess what? This person only wants to date you, but this person has no intentions of putting out anytime soon. They just want to get to know you. They got some kind of 6 month thing going on where they, they don't want to have any sex. I don't care what kind, they want to get to know you and you only. They want you to focus on them because they don't want you to be distracted by other people. Is that a match? And I'm sure y'all understand the point I'm making. Conversation is as silly as it may sound, and as much as I reiterate it, it's so important in the dating process, not just to talk about that bullshit. Like what size dildo you take. Do you like your titty suck? That's not everything in a relationship. Oh my God, you like Italian food too? That's your favorite too? Oh no, bitch, I'm getting you a ring next week. And I'm being silly. Um, in a deep, funny way, it does happen though. You meet people and you got 25 things in common and you're like, this is the one. And the next thing you're trying to do this. It does happen. And you trying to do it, and that person is like, nah, I got 25 other people that I got 25 things in common with too. So it's important to decide what that means in the beginning and not just do it based on what you see. Because sometimes you think because somebody's having a good time with you, and every time you ask them out, they say yes, and they ask you out, that you the only one because they the only one. You know, you're like, oh my God, they got me out in public. This nigga I done met their family. You know, all that shit. Oh my gosh, their friends know me. But guess what? There are 11 of you. You know, so don't just assume you're the only one based on the treatment you're getting. Find out if that's important to you. You know, some people want to date just one person, and the way they want to date that person is not amenable to the person who they want to date. You know, don't just giggle in each other's faces and rub thighs and all that shit. Oh my God, you are so all of that, and I don't even fucking know what you want out of me. You know, some people are coming for the real thing. You got people out here on the flip, like we said, they want to date multiple people. They don't want to just date one person, but they're looking for one person. Some people don't understand that. They feel like, if you feeling a vibe with me, then therefore you should just vibe with me, and why expose yourself to other people? But you got people out here who want to know what their choices are, and I think it's a fair playing game there. Just like going to the grocery store. You don't just go there the first time and you see Kraft cheese and that's it. You want to see Borden's and Cracker Barrel and all them bitches and find out what they made of. And that's how you find out what your favorite is and what you want to spend some more time with or the most time. Isn't that right? That's a piece of food. So what's wrong with us doing that with people? I mean, that's so much more important because I never have to eat cheese again. But I need people in my life. So, take that time. It's okay. If people can't handle you wanting to find out what's in the playing field and they want to be like that, oh no, you dating me, bitch, and I'm yours for life, then perhaps you probably really do need to be dating someone else. If someone makes you rush to make a decision about something that you're going down that line for some long-term shit. Because if you're not going for long-term shit, then it really doesn't matter, does it? What really matters is that you safe in your escapades. If you know you're dating someone who's dating multiple people, you got to consider all of that. If I decide to give it up, I better be prepared, with contraceptives because people will tell you all the time they protect themselves, but they never finish that sentence. They're not protecting themselves with condoms and whatever else people use, pills and blah, blah, blah. They're protecting themselves by playing roulette. They're doing random shit and they're saying, I'm protected by what they always say, I'm highly favored. That's the kind of protection they be talking about. So I suggest y'all have people explain exactly what protection means to them because you don't want to go out here and get fucked up for life. And I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, and I pray for all people, probably 6 days at least out of 7 every week, that we all that go through our challenges be lifted in some way to higher vibrations. So please don't think I'm making fun of anybody out there. But you got to be careful out there. You can't be out there giving up all that monkey booty and coming home with monkey booty cooties. Some of y'all think that shit is cute. Oh, it's no big deal. It is a big fucking deal to a lot of people. I know you've met some people that it's not a big deal to, but it's still a big deal to a lot more fucking people how you take care of yourself. While you dating these multiples out here. Nobody wants to be in no circle of fucking VTDs, as I call them, various transmittable diseases. You know, do you want to play rodeo with a fucking STD? I mean, some of you think it's cute, and I don't know what to say because I have no right to judge you, except that's just not for me. You know, while you out there dating those multiples, pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention to how you moving with these people, whether or not you being honest with all these people. That's my tip for you in that category. And so far as dating in a multiple situation. Move on to people who are dating to marry. Some people, like I said, who are dating to marry, maybe dating one or more people, you know. I think it's important to let people know your intentions, you know. If you're going out on a date, tell people, you know, I'm out here dating because I'm looking for my mate. So people know whether or not they want to play with you or they want to vacate. Like I said, a lot of people are not looking for their mate, and you can't be mad at them for that because we all be at different points in our lives depending on situations we haven't yet begun or ones we've been through. You know, sometimes we need breaks after we go out on some dates. You know, we need a break before we date again. Sometimes we've been alone, excuse me, sometimes we've been alone for a long time and we need to get back out there. You know, we've decided that we're ready to mate again with marriage in mind, you know, and that's okay too. Some people know what stage they're in their lives. They may have played a lot, you know, or they may have been with themselves a lot isolated, and they want that continued steady warmth of a person that comes every night, and that conversation and that security, and that's okay to date for that too, you know, as long as you're honest and you know you don't deceive people and try to get knocked up for marriage and you know, things of that nature, which I personally don't think are cool, you know. I don't judge people. Like I said, I just pray for people. The more fucked up stuff they do, the more I pray because I believe in karma. You know, in believing in karma, I see the law of send and return. And with that in mind, I just, you know, the more horrendous shit people do, I think about what's coming back and I'm like, oh shit. You know, sometimes I giggle depending on the gravity of it, you know, if it's low, but some of that big shit, I'll be, you know, like damn near to shed real tears feeling for people that gonna get some shit, you know, whenever it comes whatever is coming as, you know, which I always say is none of my fucking business, and that's where I stop. You know, I say, you know, we all got to get ours, including me. You know, I believe in karma for me too. I've been through shit, you know, in my marriages, you know, dating to marry, as I'm sure many of you have. You know, and I've learned, I've played little games. I've hurt feelings, you know, feeling out women for marriage. You know, I like I said, nobody's perfect. We've all done something, you know, and most of us have done many things. And those of you who insist on saying you're perfect, you probably don't need to be watching this and you probably don't like my ass because I'm telling you that you are lying to yourself. But I digress. Marriage, you know, dating to marriage is something. It can be something that um, many people may be inclined to do just with one person, you know, because they're trying to find that person. And if I fall in love with you, I don't want any distractions because isn't that what marriage is? You know, once you get into it, you can't have any distractions, so you may as well start practicing while you're dating. Unless you're in an open marriage, you know, as we always say, there are always exceptions here. But in general, people date to marry because they want to lock you the fuck down and they don't want you to date again. You know, they date you so that you don't date again. So pay attention to that while you're dating and really understand what that means. You know, I want to date to marry. When they say that, hear this. This person wants to date me so I don't date anyone else again. And if that doesn't sound cool, deliver the appropriate, honest answer to this person. I'm not feeling that right now, you know. Or yeah, I want to date you, but I don't feel that. It may come or whatever. Just be honest. You still probably gonna get some because be surprised how much people love when you just tell them the truth. Or some people, as we just mentioned, are not serious. They're not looking to marry. They just want to have fun, you know, and that's okay. You know, it's okay for people not to want to get with you for the rest of their lives, you know. It's okay to want to get out here and just explore dating. Sometimes in dating, we learn ourselves too. You learn what you don't like and what you do like in people. You know, you learn what you're willing to tolerate. You learn what your boundaries are. You learn whether or not you think you want to live with somebody or not. You can learn a lot just through the dating process. without even dating to get married, you know. That's just like dating in high school. There's no need to be dating to get married. You're dating to learn yourself, to have a crush, to spend some time, to have your first kiss, you know, all that fun stuff. You're dating for fun. You know, a lot of times I wish you would at 15 come home and tell your parents that you think you found a person you're going to marry. Unless y'all about, 3,000 miles away at least, there's going to be no smiling about that. And, instant rebuttals and all kinds of stuff. Your parents don't want you to date for marriage and all that shit. They want you to just have fun and take your ass to school and take your ass to school and take your ass to school. You feel me? There's a time in people's lives I've been there, as I've mentioned in a prior show, where I've dated just for fun. I was very clear about it with women as I met them. Look, hey, I just got out of a long-term relationship. I'm not ready for any shit except to have some fun. And I met women who were in that same vibe, a lot of them, and that was pretty cool, you know. You don't have to say what people want to hear to date. You don't have to say, yeah, I'm here. You know what they say. Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. Yep, yep, me too. Yep, yep. Oh my God, me too. I swear. Yep, yep, that's dope. And you're not thinking all that shit and never did. You just want some. You probably get it better if you tell the truth. That's a little tip for you too. Sometimes the truth makes for better sex because people respect your truth and they get hornier, even when it's not their truth. It's a turn on. You're almost like a true superhero and shit. Like, come here, nigga. Give me some of that stuff, 'cause I liked the way you told the truth. So think about that while you out here having fun. Are you gonna do that shit that Martin Lawrence did in the movie with my girl? I can't think of her name right now. Forgive me, my queen. A thin line between love and hate. When he said those magic words, I love you, that she told him not to say unless he meant them shit, so she was gonna fuck him up, as she did, you know. Had he just said, I want to have fun, she probably would have still been like, yo, give me some, but won't you be my man? She would have kept asking, but the cake wouldn't have had the knife in it or whatever the fuck happened that I think I remember. He wouldn't have been bloody in the pool at the end, perhaps. That would have been a blowjob instead, in truth. So, like I said, keep that in mind because she was digging him while he was still like, hadn't said it. She was still on it. You've decided, there are people I know have decided I'm a serial dater. That's what I do. I'm going to multiple people. And when people decide they want to try to tie me down, that person's being kicked out of the rodeo show and replaced probably with two because these people are like that. Oh, you want to give me a hard time? Yo, I don't need this because I can replace you with many. And that's cool too. Like I said, as I said at the beginning of the show, I don't care what people are into, as long as that shit is cool, and you got consent. Why not do what you want to do? What's wrong with dating 12 people if you have the opportunity to have safe sex and fun like that? What's wrong with it? What's wrong with dating one if you have the opportunity to have safe, fun experiences? Why the fuck not? Everybody is not marriage material. Everybody doesn't want to date for marriage. Some people have been married several times and decided it's not for them. Some people have been alone all their lives and decided they need to marry before they die, and there's nothing wrong with any of them. Many times we talk about each other. This one wants to get. I don't know why she want to get married. Cause she fucking wants to. Leave her alone. If that's her goal, help her. Shit, you see somebody at the grocery store that's got potential at the car wash walking down the fucking street, take a selfie, send it to her. You know what, my friend? At 6:30 a.m. every morning, this guy who looks like a Bob walks by. And I think y'all might be a match. Tell her to have her ass there at 6:25. You understand? There's no need to put people down for what they want. Help them out. I date multiple people. You know that girl down the street had 4 boyfriends in the last week, so introduce her to this dude who dates multiple people. What's wrong with it? Unless you know one of them gonna fuck the other up. Excuse me. What's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it. Let people be people. Leave them the fuck alone. Let them date one. Let them date 50. I mean, at the end of the day, is it really affecting your life? Especially when these are people you're not interested in. Do you really care how much monkey ass they do or do not swap between each other? If you have no interest, why can't you mitigate some of these situations? If you know, I'm not talking about being a matchmaker either. That's different. Selfies are different. That's more like, look, here's some prey out there in the jungle. Do you feel like hunting it? That's not Sally. Me, Harry, Harry, me, Sally. You know the both of them and you hooking them up. Now it's your fucking fault when they break up. That's different. You know, I wouldn't even take the blame for shit that goes on. If a friend of mine took a goddamn selfie and stood on a corner at 6:25 in the morning waiting for somebody to come by, thinking they might be a potential bar match, that's your shit. You can't blame any of that on me, because I'm not the one introducing y'all. You are hunting that nickel. So that be all yours. And y'all know how I do. We gonna wrap this up. We're gonna run into all kinds of people out here. Like I said, we're gonna run into people who want to date one, run into people who want to date two plus, run into people who want to marry more than one, marry one, want to date to marry, want to date for fun, want to date forever, this and that. You know, it's a hell of a pool out there. I think the most important part for anybody out there in that pool is just to be honest about what you're looking for. I think that will attract those people the most, and you got to look at it this way. People gossip a lot. When people are dating, they call a friend and they be like, girl, oh, yo, homie, yo, last night, it's always some shit. They gossiping about how their dating's going. They talking about your ass at some point. You were fly or you were fucking weird or crazy or drunk or whatever. They talking about you. So wouldn't you want them sharing information about who you really are and what you really into? Oh, you want them telling the fake stuff so you attract more people that you don't really want. Tell them the truth. Yo, that one down the street, she looking for A. She got B. She had C. And it looks like she might be getting D if you go out with her. That's how you do it. I know y'all hear me out there. Y'all know I love to give y'all tips. I hope some of y'all do well, I'm not gonna say I hope some of y'all. I hope all of y'all understand. I'm just having fun. I'm not giving you real tips, even though some of them might actually work. The intent is just to talk shit, to vent, to have a space where adults can share adult language and adult content, you know. And I'm gonna wrap it up with that. I'm not gonna give you any Jerry Springer pebbles at the end. Thanks for supporting the show, and I appreciate just having one person, that smiles. That's what it's all about for me. Who doesn't want wealth? But that's not why I'm here. I remember what my childhood was like and what my life's been like, and how it's always cool sometimes to chill with silly that makes some sense. And that's why we call this play with it. Play, W-I-T, it. So peace out. Enjoy your evenings and hopefully higher mother and father willing. I'll see you again later.